Hey everyone, Dr. Frunke here with a review and final diagnosis on the Koenig Knives Mini-Goblin. This has been a video that I've been thinking about for quite some time. I made an unboxing video when this knife came to me alongside its big brother, this Arius, which I ordered as part of a two-piece custom order set a little while ago from Bill Koenig. And so you can go back and watch that video about when I got these knives. It's been a few months now, and I feel qualified that I can go ahead and talk about the Mini-Goblin as a final diagnosis type of video. So, what are we looking at right here? The Mini-Goblin. This is a knife that was created in conjunction with Edison Barajas. Edison is the knife maker who goes by Sharknivco. You can see his cool logo right there. Edison makes some of the most unique looking knives on the market today. They're very angular. They're very modern looking. The Ryu and the Goblin series are perhaps his two most popular series as of right now. He makes a few others, and they're extremely beautiful. He works in super high-end materials and makes basically art knives. And so this is an interesting collaboration. The first time that I've seen him dip into, you could call this the production market. This is a custom order right here that was hand done by Bill, and we're going to get into the details of it and see why it's so special. But I wanted to talk about the knife in general because now I've carried this and used it and experienced the knife, and I feel like I can share some of my opinions with you guys. So before we go too much farther, something we didn't really get into too heavily in the first video, we're going to get some vital signs and some specs on this knife. Up front, you're looking at 3 inches of M390 steel right on the dot. You're about 3.4 inches back to the pivot. You're looking at 7 1/4 inches of overall length. You've got about 4 1/4 inches of handle with a grip area at about 3.75 inches, something like that. The overall thickness on the handle is coming in at just over 1/2 inch at the thickest point here, 0.53 inches, and the blade stock all the way back here is 160 thousandths. So another spec that I think is really important, especially in this carbon fiber model, is the weight. With this very nice carbon fiber scale, it drops the weight to 3.13 ounces. Extremely lightweight and gets very close to that golden ratio of 1:1 blade inches to ounces of weight that I like to see. So let's bring out another couple of knives for a size comparison, just so you can be familiar. Here is a Spyderco Para 3 and a Paramilitary 2. Some common knives here. You can see that the Mini-Goblin is a little bit smaller even than the Para 3, so I'll leave that on the screen as your size reference right here. Here's another small knife that I've had recently on the channel, the MBK Knives Min-Pin. So another smaller knife right there. And here, how about the MBK Knives Easy Seat, the other Laconico design, so you guys can see that. I'll bring out another couple of my special knives here. Here is the Nick Chuprin and Robert Carter MK1RC. A lot of letters there, a lot of names to remember on that one. And how about we bring out the other Rob Carter and NCC collab, the BBM, just to show you that I really like this size category. I find myself moving a little bit down the scale in terms of size. I have been in the 3.75, 3.5. I find the 3 1/4 inch area pretty nice. I know that the Goblin has closer to about a 3-inch blade, but I'm kind of enjoying these smaller knives. And you may see some more of those develop in my collection as we go along. So this is a nice compact size EDC targeted knife. And that really plays into why they chose to make the Mini-Goblin first. Bill wanted to make a smaller knife. I'll bring out the Koenig Arius again for another size comparison. A lot of his customers were asking for a smaller knife. The Arius is quite a big knife. And instead of making a small Arius first, he went and he made the Goblin next. And he wanted to start with the Mini-Goblin. In the custom knife game, Edison makes both a mini and a full-size Goblin. There will be a full-size Goblin, as I understand, down the line. That'll be a 3.5-inch blade, I believe. Much closer in size to the Arius in terms of overall size. But what Bill wanted to do was create a smaller EDC-centric knife so that he could show everyone that he was capable of making the knife, and that he was listening to his customers, that they wanted a smaller knife, they wanted a capable, evolved Koenig knife. And he poured all of the experience that he had with the Arius, which is a number of years now of experience with the Arius in terms of evolving, constant quality improvement, new materials, new ways of designing things, new CAD work, new machines. And he applied all of that to this knife, to the Mini Goblin. So unlike the Arius, which started as a pretty rough knife with some imperfections, it was heavy, it wasn't internally milled, it didn't have a lot of design choices, to where now it's extensively milled. I believe this knife may be somehow magically the same weight or almost the same weight. This thing is so extensively milled. Hold on, wait for it. There it is. 3.92. So this is at 3.9 ounces and being that much bigger. So they've really extensively milled out the Arius, and now all of it's being applied to this knife, the Mini Goblin. And so let's go ahead and break this knife down anatomically and see exactly where these things have been applied. So up front is that blade of M390 steel. I'm going to wipe it off so you have a beautiful view of this hand-rubbed satin hollow ground blade. This one was done by Bill himself. I ordered this when I learned that the Mini Goblin was even a thing. I said, hey man, I know that I've got my copper Arius in the works. Let's make something happen with a Mini Goblin. And he came up with this idea. I knew that he had some carbon plate, copper carbon fiber. I saw him post that on his Instagram story. You guys know I'm a huge fan of this stuff. I've got it on this Gareth Bull Shamwari. This is actually carbon plate, carbon fiber as my background, and so it was exciting to see him buying from my Russian friend and picking that up. And so he actually Krista, his sister, sent me some pictures of him actually cutting this out of a block of carbon fiber so that it could become ultimately this Mini Goblin. So very, very special knife right here. But the blade was hand done with a hand rubbed satin by Bill himself, and the flats have been mirror polished. You can see his logo there. That's something that I think could be improved. I've spoken to Bill about this. I understand putting the name on the knife, but it's a bit simple. It's just some letters, and honestly, I feel like it detracts a little bit from the otherwise beautiful look of this knife. And certainly the Sharknivco logo is really badass. It's a really cool logo. It's a shark coming right at you. Pretty cool. I think that Bill and the team need to come up with a logo to put on their knives. I think it's time. Koenig means king. You can use a crown free of charge. You don't have to quote me on that one. But perhaps it's time. I think that your knives are so beautiful, and even on the Arius, I do think that this could have been improved by having a little logo somewhere else, maybe out here. But, you know, this is a thing. You do it on all your knives. We've talked about it. Maybe it'll change in the future. Not a big deal. Not a big deal, but it is a small deal. Let's take a look at the way this knife is ground. Let's take a look at how thin this becomes behind the edge. Very, very slim grind. Very nicely done. It's got a reasonable sharpening choil right here. He sharpened it all the way to the back of the blade. The sharpening choil could perhaps be a slight bit more aggressive, but what it is a small forward finger choil. Allows you to really get your finger up in that space safely for some small manipulations. You don't want to be wrapping your finger all the way around. It's not that type of a choil, but certainly it gives you the tip of the index finger sort of area for that sort of fine tip motion. And let's talk about the tip. This blade is basically a tip. Look at this thing. It is so sharp right there at the tip, and that is what makes this such a special tool. This is very much unlike many of the other knives out there, even some of the other Wharncliffes on the market right now. I'm going to go ahead and bring out the Jason Guthrie Scout. This is you could call this a modified sheep's foot because it's not totally flat. A Wharncliffe typically is very flat like this. I don't have a lot of Wharncliffes in my collection right now. I could bring out, this is probably also really a sheep's foot style blade, but it's closer to a Wharncliffe in the sense that a lot of them have this very steep drop off right here. The Mini Goblin has a very gradual point right there. It reminds me a very little bit of the 0392 Wharncliffe that was very pointy. This makes it a very unique tool because this pointy, stabby tip suddenly becomes something that you can use in your everyday carry needs. So if you need to poke something, I'm not saying you need to poke people, but there are a lot of things that you need a fine, fine tip to sort of maneuver around. This is essentially a little X-Acto knife. It's so perfect. It's very, very reminiscent of that 11-blade shape, the X-Acto 11-blade shape. So what I have enjoyed about this knife is the pointy functionality of the blade. It has allowed me to get into very, very small spaces and make very, very fine cuts. I even hold the knife like a pencil sometimes, almost like a surgery tool when I'm using the tip like that, and it's quite comfortable in that grip. It's funny that this is how maybe I held the knife for some of the use. But that's the way it was, and it was quite nice for that. The hollow grind really made this quite a nice slicer. It slices through things well. You're not going to be cutting a lot of apples with this, but this will take some pretty heavy-duty use. I cut through rope, cut through cloth, and it was very, very effective. Super sharp, straight off of Bill's hands. Super nice. It's got a little bit of jimping up on the top of the spine here that's very functional and not even a little bit uncomfortable. It's really an excellent, most people should be doing jimping like this. Just sharp enough that you've got traction, but it's not uncomfortable. Works in all these different positions. You can choke up on it. This is the Ben Banter's fingertip test. Comes pretty close to that for me right there. I have maybe a pretty bigger hand, but that's a nice size right there. You can really get some nice control on that tip with this grip. Super fine tip again. Excellent tool. That's the thing that I keep taking away from this knife. There are some knives that are beautiful. There are some knives that are functional, and then there are some knives like this that combine both of those things so nicely. It's a beautiful thing, but this blade is an excellent tool. That's what I've taken away from my couple of months of experience. So let's go ahead and move back to the pivot here. This may be the most amazing part of this knife. All of the smoothness that you have in the Arius, he's figured it out and put it into the Goblin and then some. So this knife is incredibly smooth. The Goblin is on a totally different level. This runs on ball bearings, and the detent on this is something that has to be felt to be believed. It has a tiny, tiny, tiny flipper tab. This is a perfectly executed tiny flipper tab. There are so many companies out there that kind of struggle. I'm going to bring out a couple of interesting examples right now. Here is the PMP Knives Revenge. I had that out. This is an interesting knife that just came in. This is the Cultrotech Zim. This is a very interesting knife, but all of these knives have very small flipper tabs. This one has a small tab. It compensates by being sharp, and so you get a good solid grip on it, and you're able to do it. This one is also subtle. This compensates by being rounded and having some jimping, and so you do more of a light switch type of maneuver on this knife. This one brings both of those perfectly together. There's a small amount of jimping that's not uncomfortable, and it's not sharp, but it's angular in such a way that you get a perfect purchase, and that blade flies out. The smoothness and the crispness of the detent has to be felt to be believed. Maybe no other knife in my collection has this crisp of a detent. It is just locked into place, snapped open. Sounds like a little twig is breaking, and it's a nice, nice, nice sound. And it's very satisfying for those of us that appreciate that kind of feel to our knives, and that's quite nice. The pivot hardware is very nice. I believe this is stainless steel that he flame anodized to this color. He flame treated to make it the bronze gold color. The back has a nice screw. I believe this is coming in at T10. I have a T8 right here. Let's make sure. Yeah, maybe it is a T8. So it's got a T8 construction there. It's all T8 construction. I was just reminding myself of that. So that's pretty nice. You only need one tool to modify all these things. Even the lock bar is T8, so that's really neat. So very, very nice work on that. The blade engagement on the lock bar is early but solid. There is no weakness in this lockup. I was not able to disengage this. It has a steel lock bar insert that's beautifully hidden on the inside with a ceramic ball detent. Super smooth actuation on that. Very, very nice. Let's go ahead and move back to the handles. This is the most beautiful part of the knife to me. This features, as I mentioned before, some of that carbon plate, copper dust carbon fiber. This is a one-of-one model right now. This particular Mini Goblin is the only one that has this. However, that being said, he has a whole pile of this stuff, and he's about to release a bunch of these onto the market. I don't think that they'll have the exact same spec as this, but be aware that he will be selling some more of these with the copper dust carbon fiber in the future. He's also made some with some of the texalium scales, the beautiful colored scales with the different weaves, and it's just beautiful stuff. So really go and check out the wide range of Mini Goblins that are available out there when you're looking to purchase. Lots of different distributors have them. Lots of different variants are available. On the back of mine here, it features a bronze anodized frame. This is 6AL4V titanium with titanium screws, a bronze anodized backspacer. Most of these knives come with a plain titanium scale. It looks the same. It's just plain titanium, non-anodized. And the hardware is mostly blue, and the backspacer is blue on those standard models. Some of them have carbon fiber. Not many of them, maybe none of them, have this bronze on it right now. So very special knife to me right here. And Bill. And he really enjoyed making this, and I think it inspired him to really make some beautiful designs that you're going to see coming up with this knife. Let's take a look at the pocket clip. This is something that I really, really like about this knife. It is a 3D milled pocket clip, but it has exactly the right amount of spring to it. It's hard to really quantify that on a video, but having the right amount of spring on a 3D milled clip is extremely important. It can easily be overly stiff and unusable. This one has just the right amount of balance. It's not the tallest clip in the world, and it rides a little bit with that tip sticking out, so that's just something you're going to have to be aware of. If you have particularly thick pants, it might ride a little bit more proudly, but it's exactly the right amount of knife to grab it and pull it out of the pocket very easily. I enjoy that very much. The ergonomics on this thing are excellent. Despite it being very small, it fits in my large to extra large size hand quite well. I wear a size 8 sterile glove, and I get a full 4-finger grip purchase on this. My pinky wraps fully around the edge of that, and the rest of my hand fills this. My 2 fingers fit nicely here, and my other 2 fingers fit here. Nothing uncomfortable about that grip at all. A combination of the jimping right here as well as a milled area for the flipper tab combines to make a very comfortable area for the thumb to rest, either choked back here or forward like this, or forward like this, or like this, or like I was mentioning, holding it almost like a pen. You can actually put your finger right there. It's just a very comfortable and easy to use tool. It's very well balanced. It's a bit maybe, there it is. The balance point is right there in the middle of that forward choil, and so it's quite balanced in your hand on this carbon fiber version right here. I like that very much. And then let's move just to the fun fidget factor of this knife. You can flip this thing all day. It is just too much fun and way too smooth. Very few knives really move like this. And it's not loose. There's no wiggle to it. There's no blade play in any direction. It's perfectly centered. Dead centered. Let me show you that. Very nicely done. Let me get you a close-up on that beautiful backspacer too. Super nicely done. Show you the carbon fiber scale again. All I can say is that I'm blown away. And so what is my final diagnosis on this? It's exciting evolution, because what I see here is that the Koenig brand is evolving. They are bringing in the custom makers that we want to see, the rare custom makers. Edison Barajas has no other major collaborations as far as I know. If I'm incorrect, let me know down below. But I don't know anybody else making a knife this sort of unique. This is a very unique Wharncliffe shape, and it's exciting to see. And what they've done is they've taken all of the learning from the Arius and honestly made this into a better knife. Bill told me when he gave it to me, spend a month with this and you're going to think it's a better knife. And to be honest, I do. And it's hard for me to say that because I absolutely love the Arius. The Arius is a thing of beauty. It's one of my favorite knives of all time. This flipper delete model right here is never going to get sold because it's a perfect knife to me. This was the knife that I always wanted for the Arius to be. But this knife mechanically is better. It's smoother, it's faster, it's crisper, it's cleaner. I don't know how to explain it, but it's exciting to see this evolution from this company, and I'm really excited to see where they go with this from now. I know for a fact they'll be making a larger size Goblin sometime in the future. Don't quote me on when that's going to be. I don't know. You'll have to ask Bill himself. Perhaps later this year, maybe next year. Who knows? I'm not sure. But what I can say is that this is an excellent small knife. If you are looking for a small knife, this is a definite place to look. A small, quality, high-end made knife. I believe these start somewhere in the $450 range and maybe go up to about the $700 range, depending on spec. And so they're expensive knives. Be aware of that. But what you're getting is an American-made, essentially custom knife, because that is a really small group of people over there. That is a small unit, maybe of 7 to 10 people in the Koenig company making these knives. And Bill and his family get their hands on each one for quality control. And so each one is very special. And it's in a gray area between custom and mid-techs and whatever you want to call them. But they are truly special knives from a small manufacturer in the United States that has a bunch of years of experience now, high-end materials, high-quality engineering and manufacturing going into these. And so I'm blown away. This is a better knife than the Arius, Bill. You've done a great job, and I'm going to get the full-size one. To me, this is a bit small for me and my carry. I want a little bit of a bigger knife. And so this one will not be staying permanently in my collection, but please do not take that as a reflection on the quality of the knife itself. This is just a bit small for my hand and my carry, and so I will certainly be getting the full-size Goblin, and then this one may be moving on here. But thank you guys for watching. Please leave some comments down below. Tell me what you think of the Koenig Knives Mini-Goblin now that I've given my final diagnosis. Click like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Head over to Instagram and follow me as Dr. Frunky. Follow Koenig Knives. Follow Bill R. Koenig, Krista Gonsalvna, and Persistent Precision over there. That's their whole team on Instagram. And go ahead and just let me know what you think, guys. Thank you for watching. And this is Dr. Frunky saying, take care.